Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Sharp School. My name is Mohammed Azam and hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving break. In this video, I want to talk about how you can request reviews from your users. And as you can imagine, reviews are just so important. So important. Rating and reviews. That's how the other customers, other users will discover you. That's how your ranking will go up, And I've launched my own apps now. So, this is very, very important to rating and reviews. And I will be asking for your reviews also at the end. So make sure you review my app. Okay. So asking for review and rating that pops up a dialog, it's actually kind of built in. And if you look at this article from Apple requesting App Store reviews, you'll see that it's actually pretty straightforward. All you need to do is to use the environment, which is the request review environment value, and which is simply a function, and you can just call that function and it will present you the rating and review dialog where the user can rate and review the app. Now, before you do that, definitely read through this documentation because you can see over here it says that maximum of 365 days period. This means that the system, be aware right there, that the system displays the review prompt to a user a maximum of 3 times within 365, so basically 1 year, 3 times. So even if you're calling the request review function multiple times, Apple will decide that, no, we're not going to present the dialog box or the dialog to the user. So use it very, very, very carefully because you only get 3 tries. All right. Now, one of the places where you can put it is in the settings where, you just have one link which says rate the app. That's fine. But what about asking the user when they install the app, when they use the app? When should you be asking the user for the review? And Apple has actually talked about that also over here. Make the request at a time that doesn't interrupt what someone is trying to achieve in your app. For example, at the end of a sequence of events that they successfully complete. Avoid showing a request for review immediately when a user launches your app. And avoid requesting a review as a result of the user action. All right. So it really depends, even in these recommendations that Apple is making, there are conditions, like over here, they're saying, avoid showing a request for a review immediately when a user launches the app. Well, when the user launches the app for the first time, obviously not, because they don't even know what your app is, right? But maybe the user is coming back to your app again and again. Maybe the 8th or the 10th time they came back, you will say, hey, you want to review the app? You want to review the app? Things like that. Avoid requesting a review as a result of the user action. So again, this is it really depends what kind of user action they're trying to do. You want to capture the essence of the review or asking for a review or requesting a review at a point where user is like, wow, okay, I'm happy at this point. So you want to capture that happiness, So, just like kids, remember, when your parents were maybe eating a nice dinner or they were happy or something, it's at that point that the kids are gonna, hey, can I get that toy that we talk about? And then the parents are like, okay, yeah, you can get it. So we need to do something like that. All right, so here's my app. It's a gardening application. Now, this is obviously not the complete app. I'm just showing you bare bones over here. So we have over here the list of vegetables coming from a JSON file. I can go and, I can read information about the vegetable. And there's a button over here, harvest. I can click on it. It doesn't really do anything. All right. So now the question is, let's say that this is the app that we're trying to ask the user to review. At what point should we be asking the user that, hey, do you want to review the app? Now I can go ahead and use this, which is request review environment value. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But what I want to do is I want to create like a manager which can control that. Maybe if you visited the app maybe like 7, 8 times, then yeah, we're going to ask you for the review. And we also want to capture the moment where you are very happy. So when you harvest a vegetable, we can, at that point, you're happy. You're like, oh, wow, I finally did it. I finally harvested my vegetable. It took me a long time, but I finally did. Then you can ask for the review. And keep in mind, once the user has reviewed it, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, it's not going to ask it again and again. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and create a new folder. Let's call it managers. There we go. And what else will we need? We need a file. Let's add a file. Let's call it ReviewManager. All right. Now, ReviewManager will be a simple struct. It's kind of like stateless, even though it is going to put some values in, in the file. What is that called? The app store, the default file. All right. And then we can also add like some sort of a criteria, review criteria. So we can have like a launch, and we can say, over here, I can say, I guess, after, because I want to delay it, time interval. Now, why am I saying it after? Well, I'm saying it after because in our condition, if you go to the vegetable detail screen, there's a harvest button, right? The harvest button, when you click, maybe there's a confetti. I mean, in my app, there's a confetti and it goes on for like 5 seconds or so. And you don't want to like block that. You want to review the app, and then the person was like, oh, I can see the confetti. Oh my God. And then all of a sudden, oh, whoa, why are you showing me the review? I was so happy, right? So we want to say review criteria. I mean, it can be delayed, time interval. I guess we can say delay over here if you want, but then we can say like a time interval over here. I mean, it's up to you, whatever you're passing over here. So we can delay asking for the review with a couple of seconds. All right. Okay. So now let's go ahead and set up some of the variables over here. I'm going to set up a couple of different things, as you can see. Minimum launch count 7. This means that minimum you have to launch the app 7 times, and then we are going to ask for a review. Has request key, has requested, meaning the user has already requested the review, so don't bother. And this is like different keys that we are using over here. Launch count key. I mean, because we will be putting these values in user defaults. Now let's go ahead and create the function. Function will be request review if needed. We can pass in the criteria. We can pass in with criteria, I guess, also. Review criteria. And the second one will be the request review, the actual function that you can pass in. So that will be interesting because you can actually pass in the request review function, which is provided by Apple, right over there, and we can call it inside request review if needed. All right. Now let's go ahead and get the defaults. So defaults equals to user defaults dot standard. And we're going to check a couple of different things. If the user has already, if that's already been done, if defaults dot boolean for a key, and the key is has requested key, and it's true, then return. There's no point. I mean, this means that the user has already done the review part of it, or we have already requested the review for the user. So we don't really want to do that again. All right. Switch criteria. So let's go ahead and switch the criteria. launch. What happens on the launch? So over here, we can actually check that what is the new launch count. All right, so let's go ahead and get the new launch count. And the launch count will be stored in the defaults. So we can say defaults.integer for key, which is launch count key. And this will be our new launch count plus 1. So this will be new launch count. Great. And once we have the new launch count, we can set that new launch count into the user defaults. So that will be just like that. Okay. Guard. And now we can check if the new launch count is greater than the minimum launch count, then return. Don't do anything. All right. Else we'll request review. And request review is basically the actual function we'll be passing in later on. So we can just call that function. And after that, also make sure to set the default, the user defaults, to say that you have already asked for the review. All right, that's the important part. The other one is delay, right? Delay with a time interval. So let's go ahead and say over here, this will be like a time interval, you can say, yeah, time interval. I mean, you can say delay in second or in seconds, you can use any variable you want. So over here, the whole point is to delay asking for a review. And again, the reason is maybe you're performing some sort of an animation, maybe you're doing something else. It will be nice if those animations have a callback, but also if the animation is ended right after the animation ends, you don't really want to call it exact point, right? You have to still wait a little bit. So that's what we're going to do over here. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like sleep over here. So task.sleep for seconds. And whatever the second the person is passing, that will be like a time interval. Maybe we should call it time in seconds, or seconds. Seconds will be also fine. Just call it seconds, I guess. I think you can have like double. I mean, time interval in the end, if you see it is double anyways. So I guess you can just pass that. Okay. So after we do that, now we can say if defaults, again, we will check dot boolean. We're just checking that user, if they have not requested for review, then we can request the review. We'll call that function. And then again, we're going to set it defaults, which is probably right over here. That's the same thing we're going to do over here. There we go. So this will be our review manager. All right. Now let's go ahead and see how we can use it. Now, one of the ways to use it is to create an instance, inject it, and all that stuff. But what I do is with these in SwiftUI, with these stateless kind of thing, and I guess we can call it stateless because it's not really holding the value in its own property. It's more like using user defaults. All right. So I can go ahead and create a new folder. We'll call it extensions. And for services like these kind of things, I would like to create an environment value. So I'll say environment values plus extensions. Let's go ahead and import SwiftUI, extension, environment values. Okay. And what are we trying to do? Well, we can use the entry var ReviewManager. Entry macro is actually pretty cool because it can generate a lot of code for you, right? I mean, if you can actually take a look at what code is generating, I think you can say expand macro. And you can see all of this code we were writing before, but now with the entry macro, it will generate it for us. Okay, that's great. Now let's go ahead and start using it. So I'll go back to my vegetable list screen. Now don't ask for the review if you have a login screen or if you have some other screen, don't ask it over there. Make sure that you're asking it at the correct moment, all right? So what we're doing is I'm asking it in the vegetable list screen. I'm not sure if I have any other screen over here, but I think that's the only one I have, right? So over here, I can probably ask for the review, all right? So because this is kind of like my home screen, so this means that the person is like coming back all the time, which is great. And now over here, oh, let me get access to that environment value. Environment Review Manager. This is how I access it. It's so cool, right? I can just access it like that. I don't need to inject anything anywhere. That's how you manage dependencies in SwiftUI. Review Manager dot review criteria will be launch, and request review. Well, this is where we're going to be passing in our request review part of it. So I can go ahead and say environment request review. Oh, why it's not coming up? I think request review might be part of StoreKit, right? So probably have to use StoreKit for that. StoreKit request review private var request review. There we go. So that's the actual function, and we can simply pass in request review over here. Request review. All right. And let me see over here. Okay, so let me write it again over here. So review manager dot like this, and what is it? Launch and request review. I think request review is a little bit different over here. See, cannot convert from request review action to a type something else. So what I can do is I can just use this and I can say request review. Call the function, obviously. So that's the thing that we're actually passing. All right. So this will only get fired when you are visiting the vegetable list screen like 7 times or more, right? So then it will fire. The other thing that you need to fire it is when you harvest. So let's go to the vegetable details screen. That is basically where we are actually harvesting. So that will be really fun to see how we're doing that. Let me actually try to see, what is that? Function, request review. I'm just trying to check that I'm doing it correctly or not. Okay. Harvest will be over here. Where's the function? There it is. Now over here, you will perform the harvest, do some animation, do some confetti, do some animation or celebration. And then over here, we can call that, all right? So again, I'm gonna go on the top. I'll say environment. First of all, I'm gonna get the request review. Over here, request review kind of comes up, kind of weird. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and also say environment review manager. That's the one that we created. Review manager. All right. And let's go over here, and then we can say over here, ask for review. Now over here, keep in mind that you don't have to ask for the review on the first harvest. Maybe you can even wait and you can check that if it's like your second harvest, third or fifth harvest, then you can ask for the review. All right, so that's perfectly fine. So now over here, we can ask for the review. So review manager dot request review delay. How much time should we delay it? We can delay it for 5 seconds or so. But again, you will have to measure this time for your app also. All right. I mean, how long is your animation that you're doing? Not call as function. What am I doing over here? Instance method. Yeah, there we go. Import StoreKit. There we go. Okay, imported StoreKit. All right. Let's see if it actually comes up over here in the Xcode previews. Maybe maybe it doesn't work with Xcode previews. All right. Let me go ahead and run it on a simulator. All right, so let me first go ahead and run the app. I'm going to run it on the simulator so you can actually see it. And you can see that we're launching the app. Since we're launching it for the first or second time, it's not really going to ask for the review for the launch criteria. But we can go to a vegetable and I can say harvest, and maybe there's some animation going on. And then after a couple of seconds, 5 seconds, here we go. Let's see. Okay, it was supposed to ask for the review. So you can see it's a little bit delayed, I guess. It didn't really ask for the review. I think I clicked it again. I clicked it a little bit earlier on, and maybe it asked for the review. So now it's not asking me for the review. Okay, kind of weird. Let's see over here. It did ask me a couple of seconds ago. Okay, all right. Weird. But what we can do is maybe I can delete the app and start again. Oh, since it asked for the review, I said yes, and it's it's not going to ask me again, obviously, because that flag is set. Okay, so here we go. I'm clicking on harvest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and now it should ask me for the review. There we go. It comes up, and I can go ahead and do something over here, submit it. I think it only allows you to cancel it. So we can just cancel it, and now it's done. This means that it is not going to ask me for the review again because we have set that flag up. Unless people can go to settings and then they manually press on the request review button. And if they do that, you don't even have to use the review manager. You can just call the request review function. So that will work out. All right. So there you have it. This is how you will request the review from the user on your apps. And just like I have taught you how you can implement this, how you can request a review, I am also going to be requesting a review for my application, which is My Veggie Garden. So please go to the link that will be in the YouTube video, YouTube description. This app is a free app, but it is it does have an in-app purchase for subscription. It does have a hard wall. So, even though you will be able to download the app and look at it, you will have to, you can get a 3-day trial to use it. Yeah, so this app is actually available. I worked very hard on it, and you can see it looks really nice and beautiful app. So make sure that you download it. Maybe your family members need some sort of an app for gardening, so maybe you can tell them about it. But please make sure you rate and review the app. And apart from that, you already know Adam Sharp School. Definitely check out Adam Sharp School. I actually have a latest course on StoreKit that takes you through the whole process of implementing in-app purchases and subscriptions. So just like I have implemented it in my gardening app, I'm going to show you using StoreKit 2 how you can implement subscriptions in your application. And let me actually see if I can go to this particular course. Yeah, this is a great course, and I keep on adding more videos to this course. You can see it has a bunch of lectures, like a 2.5 hour course. You can see the course overview video. You're definitely going to enjoy that because I go through the whole process of implementing in-app subscriptions. So thank you so much again. Hope you enjoy it. Go ahead and press the like button. Comment if you want. Thank you so much.